myself again.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Monday night, which means it's the Holly and Steve show. Good evening, Holly.
Evening, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Refreshed after my trip to London. It was a magical mystery tour, of course, down to Abbey Road to see the Abbey Road studios. Got to walk across the infamous crossing that the Beatles walked across on their album cover. And from my perspective, I had a great weekend. Only the football spoiled it because I got to see the first half on my mobile phone as we were waiting to go in. Saw the wonderful start, saw Callum Wilson's goal and Murphy's goal. And then as I was walking around Abbey Road going into Studio 1, 2 and 3, which is the first time in their 90-year history all three studios have been given, the public have been given access, I just was getting phone notifications. And Newcastle chucked it away the second half. Couldn't believe it. But I'm sure you'll be able to give us more insight to the match. And I'm sure anybody wants any info on what Abbey Road was like, I'm more than happy to tell them. But Holly, Newcastle United 2, West Ham 4, first game of the season. How did you find it?
Really frustrating. I think that's the best word I can use to describe the game. We went into it with such a good attitude. Like, we weren't getting put off by anything. Obviously, West Ham equalised, and then we still fought really hard, ended up going ahead again. They equalised again. We still fought for a little bit, but then once the third goal went in, they just admitted defeat, really, and there was still plenty of time in that game to get back into it, but they didn't even make an attempt to do it. They just thought, oh, well, that's game over, just let West Ham have the points, which is the most frustrating thing for me, because when there's still so much time in a game left, you should be fighting right until the very end to try and score a goal, and we just didn't. We just sat back and let them do everything. And the main problem in that game for me was the defence. I thought the defence was awful. That's the thing that I said I was kind of concerned about going into the season, the defence being poor, because there's a lot of players in there that are aging. You know, it is Rafa's defence that we built like after we just came up from the Championship, even in the Championship, and nothing's changed. And they're really, really not the same players that they were a few years ago, and they can't keep up with the pace any longer, and the defence was just awful, which made it really hard for Freddie Woodman.
Yeah, and controversial decisions as well, plenty. No controversy at all throughout the weekend with VAR. Newcastle, first and foremost, the equaliser that West Ham scored looked to have been flagged offside. VAR came to West Ham's aid, and of course, the goal was found to be judged correct. So, VAR struck against us once there. But then the penalty decision, which I've watched back a couple of times, absolutely ludicrous, Holly. And to be fair, the game seemed to change on that.
Yeah, it did. Definitely not a penalty. And the referee didn't actually make the effort to look at the VAR himself. He just trusted the decision of the people that were controlling the VAR, which was really annoying, because surely it should be the referee's decision. Wasn't a penalty, but regardless if they got that penalty or not, I still don't think we would have went on to win the game. So I suppose it didn't make that much of a difference in the end, but it certainly didn't help, and it did knock the confidence of the lads on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, ludicrous decision, I felt. And I mean, even Graham Souness and the guys on Sky, after the game said it was never a penalty. So, that did alter the flow of things, certainly as an observer on TV. But I guess as well, the penalty that was taken, great save by Woodman. You've got to be disappointed that no Newcastle players reacted quick enough to get to the ball, and West Ham just stroked the ball into the net.
Well, yet again, I think that's another mentality issue that we have within the side. They obviously expected us to concede the penalty. Then when Woodman saved it, they weren't prepared for that. So unfortunately, we didn't get to the ball first, and we should have done that, because it's just the mentality that's totally wrong within the side. We always kind of have this negative mindset that we'll concede a goal and we're beat, or we're not expected to save penalties. And this is just the issue that I feel like we have, because we should always be giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt, and being prepared for everything, basically. But unfortunately, they just weren't, and West Ham got the ball and then did put it in the back of the net, which could have been prevented.
Any positives then, Holly, that you could take?
Yeah, there was some positives. Alan St-Maximin was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. One of the best games I've seen from him for a long time. And I know he's always good, but he was outstanding in that game. He definitely was man of the match for me. He just kind of stole the show altogether. He was brilliant. Callum Wilson was really good as well, trying really, really hard. And Actually, in the ground in St James's Park, it was quite a good atmosphere, certainly from where I was sat as well. I wasn't expecting it to be as lively as it was, and everyone was really behind the team. Joe Willett came out and got presented to the fans, which was really, really good. And there was a few positives within that game. Woodman, he took a lot of stick. I don't think he was as bad as he was made out to be. I think his job was made very difficult because of how poor the defence was, but I don't think he was too bad. I still don't think he's as good as Dubravka and Darlow, but I don't think he's horrendous either. And he certainly didn't deserve the stick that he was getting. Shelvey had another decent game, to be fair to him. I thought Shelvey played well, but apart from that, it was pretty poor. It was just unfortunately the fact that once we conceded those goals, we didn't really make an attempt to get back into the game.
I guess the Shelvey comment you made will probably split fans because some people just don't see any good in Shelvey whatsoever. I mean, the highlights that I saw, I watched most of the first half live, and then second half I had to catch up with obviously Match of the Day and whatever I've seen on Sky. But Shelvey did seem to have one of his better games, but again for me, it just shows you how low Newcastle has fallen. Really, from my perspective, I just think that our expectations are so low now that players like Shelvey can stand out every now and then. Where do you think he went wrong with the back four then? With the defence, sorry, Hailey. Where do you think he went wrong? Would you have had Lascelles in? I mean, he was on the bench. If he's on the bench, surely he's fit.
I wouldn't have had Lascelles in, no. I'm not a big fan of Lascelles, but I do think he got it wrong with the defence. I think Clark was probably the best one on the pitch, and even he wasn't great. But I think Isaac Hayden, it was a big mistake playing him in the role that he did have him playing in, because he's really good as a central defensive midfielder, but as a centre-back, he's just not the best for me, and it's not his natural position. And when we have other centre-backs fit, we really shouldn't be playing Hayden there. He should only be playing there when there's no one else and we've got injury problems. I don't understand why.
He dropped him into the back, didn't he? Dropped him into the back. That was the change that he made, and it just seemed ludicrous to drop him into the defence.
Yeah, that was where it went wrong for me, because I think Hayden just kind of caused problems altogether, and the defence wasn't well drilled because Hayden just you could tell it wasn't his natural position and he didn't look up to it.
Yeah, I mean, he did that in a few of the friendlies that we saw as well, of course. So it's obviously something that's in Bruce and the coach and staff's mind. But it's crazy. I mean, the positives, of course, 50 plus thousand there. I mean, we talked last week about, how would it be affected. My prediction came true. I felt that a lot of people would just want to go purely because it was the first game back, and that, start of a new season, new optimism, new hope. Everywhere but Newcastle. But that kind of feeling that football's back, we want to be there, we want to be at the ground. But with season ticket sales not being great, then performances will judge how many people go in the future. But over 50,000 there, and you reckon the atmosphere was okay?
Yeah, it's the best it's been for a long time from my perspective, and
wow.
There was certainly a lot of positivity as well. There wasn't really any negative chants, nothing anti-Bruce, nothing anti-Ashley. They were just fully behind the team, which I thought was a good thing. It's just a shame that the fans didn't get rewarded for their support with a win.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I guess Callum Wilson comes out with good marks from yesterday's performance. Alan St. Maximin, obviously you mentioned him, saying he was probably the best game that he's ever played. Anybody else stand out? How was Murphy? I mean, he was our star performer through the pre-season.
Murphy didn't impress me at all in that game, actually. He did get the goal, but apart from that, I don't really think he added anything to him. It was a very poor game for him. Not the worst I've seen, but certainly nowhere near the best. His passing was horrendous. Probably the worst passer on the pitch at the time. Really not sure what went wrong. And another one, Matt Ritchie, he was terrible. Really, really bad.
No, you can't say that.
He was. I'm sorry. I like Ritchie as well, but he was. He looked like the Ritchie when he first came back from that injury that he got against Leicester, and he was just totally out of it. That's what he was like, and Wilson was on his back constantly. I could see Wilson constantly having to pop at Ritchie. But I don't even know, he got megged a few times. He was missing the ball all the time. And he was just slow. He was so slow.
It's like swear words on this show, but no, it's the Holly and Steve show. You can say what you want. You were there, I wasn't there, but disappointed to hear that, because as you know, he is my favourite player in the squad. So listen, it's looking at the stats on Match of the Day. A positive: Newcastle had 17 shots, West Ham had 18. I think West Ham had 9 on target. Of course, Newcastle only had 3. But in essence, there were signs of an attack in Newcastle United there, which is a positive. They just need to shore up the defence. And I guess the criticism I saw a lot of on social media was pace. We don't have much pace in the defence.
No, we don't. We don't have much pace all across the pitch. We've got a few players that are really fast, but the issue is someone like St. Maximin will go on a run, but no one can keep up with him. So therefore, he's kind of just left isolated and he's kind of stuck and he can't do anything with the ball. But for me as well, the problem was substitutions. We should have made them a lot earlier. There was just a plan A there. There was no plan B. There was nothing to fall back on. He sat far too long waiting to make subs, and I could see St. Maximin going over to Bruce, kind of telling him, listen, you need to make a change. It's not working. But obviously Bruce didn't listen, and it was just really, really disappointing because there was plenty of time for him to change that game, and he just didn't do it. He just stuck with the team that clearly wasn't working.
Yeah, okay, we'll come to some of the comments and let you take us on a direction tonight, folks, in the chat. Lee Taylor says, game of 2 halves. We played well in the first half, but West Ham upped their game in the second half. We can't afford to play well in the first half and not back that performance up in the second half. Yeah, you get no arguments with us, Lee. NUFC 1892 says, a lot of people are saying West Ham robbed Newcastle with that penalty, but why didn't the referee have a look at the monitor rather than someone else 300 miles away? Yeah, it was a point that Holly made earlier on, and I did hear that from whoever it was on Match of the Day as well last night, covering the game, Match of the Day too. Tom Dixon, heard today that Darlow won't be ready for at least 6 weeks. He's just returned back to the gym today at the training ground. That's not good at all. NUFC 892 again says, Holly, great to see that the club included you in the match day 1 photo that they uploaded to their social media platforms, especially after the work you put into organising the London protest. Yeah, I did see that. Was that like something on the website, or was it was it on the match programme? What was it, Holly? I did see you tweet it.
It was like on the club's social media, just advertising the first game of the season.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Lee Taylor says, yesterday Bruce's NUFC side conceded 4 goals at home for the 3rd time inside 12 months. Before he took over, we hadn't conceded 4 goals in a home league match for 6 years plus. Same defence under Rafa. That's an interesting stat, that. And that's a worrying stat, I think, isn't it? About goals conceded from Bruce's sides, I guess.
Yeah, it is. We do concede quite a lot of goals, but there's just something not right within that defence. None of the players seem to work well together. I don't think you can find the right mix of players. And of course, the captain was sat on the bench, so there's clearly something not quite right within the squad.
Darren Cowan says, we played a right back at centre-back when we had 2 of our best centre-backs on the bench, including our captain. Then, 2 goals down, Bruce takes off Wilson for a player who cost 40 million, who could not score to save his life. Again, crazy. I mean, there wasn't any sign of Wilson carrying a knock or anything there, was there?
No, he didn't seem so to me.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I saw Big Joe coming on, but he's obviously contracted to come on, although Newcastle will probably deny that. It's got to be something in his contract. Do you think we'll bring any other players in, or do you think Willock is going to be the only one through the door at Newcastle, says Tom?
I thought we would have got a couple of loans in. I don't think so now. We might get maybe 1, but I can't see any more than 1. But I think there's a high chance it could be just Willock.
Well, where do we need to improve? You've seen a few of the friendlies, and now you've seen the first game. Where do you think we need to improve?
Defence, massively. Centre-backs, particularly. I'd bring maybe 2 centre-backs in. Right back and left back, we can probably just about manage, but centre backs, we really do need to improve. I did say midfield as well, but obviously we've brought Willock in now, and Shelvey seems to have stepped up. Granted, it probably won't last long, but you're just kind of hoping that we can get through the season with what we have.
Yeah, Dino says, we didn't play well throughout the game, in my opinion. Few good flashes going forward, but that's it. Is Dino being a bit harsh?
Yeah, I think he's being harsh. I thought we played really, really well first half, and even early on in the second half we played well, and then unfortunately we just dropped off.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the first half. I mean, as I say, I managed to watch it on my phone, but the second half obviously was a capitulation. Dave says, Keith, first half was okay, second half was rubbish, no commitment, no pushing forward. Chad says, I told you it wouldn't take long before the Shelvey questions, the Shelvey point of view came in. Thoughts on everyone thinking Shelvey had a good game. Statistically, was the worst man on the pitch. Can't afford to have someone trying Hollywood balls and failing 9 out of 10 of them. See, I've got to agree with Chad. I didn't see the full game yesterday. Obviously, saw the first half on TV. But that's essentially what Shelby does. He stands in the midfield and literally plays Hollywood balls. And a lot of them don't come off. I would agree with him. But you seem to think he had a decent enough game yesterday for him.
Yeah, I do. I thought he was kind of the best in midfield, but you've got to remember as well that the midfield is particularly poor. So if someone has literally just an average game, then it'll probably look good because there's so much little quality within the midfield.
Okay, Paul Oxley says, spot on. Holly defence was shocking. Kraft and Clark were rubbish. Should be dropped against Villa. Didn't give Woodman any protection at all. Terence, good evening. He says, travelled back down on the 1 minute past 5 last night after the game. Every West Ham fan I spoke to said St James's Park has no atmosphere anymore. They can't understand that there's no angry protests like they did previously. Has he got a point? I mean, was there any protests yesterday, Holly? We talked about this last week as well, and we saw rumours about potential protests going ahead. I mean, was there anything?
No, there was absolutely nothing as far as I saw anyway. I know a lot of people were frustrated about that on Twitter and stuff. I've seen people complaining about it, but I think we're at a stage now where what are we really protesting about anymore? There's very little we can do to influence the takeover, and we're kind of stuck with Ashley. Like, if he wants to go, he'll go. If he doesn't, he won't. He really couldn't care less what the fans think. Bruce is here to stay. Regardless, he doesn't care how much stick we give him, and Ashley will keep him in a job. So I don't even know what we're meant to be protesting about anymore. And I think fans are just so kind of beaten down now, where we're just past the point of caring, it almost feels like, because we just feel so helpless, because no matter how hard we try, our voice just isn't heard.
And that's sad to hear you say that at your young age, because ultimately you should not be feeling beaten down. You should be enjoying your football and not having a care in the world. But ultimately, to hear you say that that's not good at all. It's not good at all for the future of the football club. And like I said, 50-odd thousand there yesterday, 3,000 of which were West Ham fans. But in the grand scheme of things, if results go against us over the next few weeks, we'll get a truer reflection of how many people will actually want to come to the games. At least it shows yesterday that ultimately people will go to St James's Park, but the one entertained and the one they're going to want to see. They're going to want to see victories at home, and if Bruce continues in the same vein as and the players continue in the same vein as yesterday, then it's just going to diminish the crowd. But I think what Terry's saying is right in the sense that Newcastle's atmosphere isn't as good, but I think a lot of it's down to the fact that we don't have as many players who we're proud of and who we can sing songs about. I picked that up during the pre-season again. A lot of our back catalogue is getting used. I mean, who would have thought years after his retirement would still be singing Shearer's name? People are even singing Andy Cole's name now on the terraces. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it is bizarre. We're kind of living in the past, because in the past we had a team that we could be proud of and we had a degree of success there, whereas now we're just stagnated, kind of stuck in the bottom half of the Premier League with a squad that really doesn't care. But that's the point that I was coming on to, is the fact that we all are very quick to get onto Steve Bruce's back, and rightly so sometimes. But I think the players should be getting a lot more stick than they do get, because there is a few players within that side that do care and they do try hard. But I think vast majority of them just don't care, and they're not bothered about whether they play well or not. A lot of them's here for a paycheck, and I don't think the club means anything to a lot of these players. And yet they just are allowed to get away with it. The mentality is totally wrong. We lose a game, they're not really affected. They should be disappointed, but they're not. We concede a goal, oh well, game over. They don't try to make an effort to get back into the game, and I just think the mindset of a lot of players is totally wrong and very, very annoying, because there's so many people that would die to play for Newcastle, people in the crowd that go every week, and that these people are here and they just see it as a way to make some easy money, and they're honestly not bothered, and that's the most annoying thing for me, and it's actually upsetting.
Tom reckons that fitness plays its part. He says, could the training ground be a factor? It's far beyond anything else in the Premier League. It might mean a fractional but crucial disadvantage in terms of fitness.
Yeah, it is a good point. Obviously, the training facilities aren't anywhere near up to scratch, and the training probably isn't great either under Bruce. But overall, I still think the mindset of the players is wrong, because they just don't care.
Paul Oxley says he'd bring in Lascelles and Shaw for Kraft and Clark. Interesting, yeah. I mean, Shaw, just seems to be one of Bruce's favourites. Kraft, seems to be one of Bruce's favourites. So, Shaw is a fan's favourite. But I just don't understand his persistence in playing Kraft and what has happened to Manquillo. I don't know. I mean, again, I prefer Manquillo. I know some people don't, but I prefer Manquillo to Clark to Kraft every time. But, it's Steve Bruce's job. He's got to get it right, and he's got to find the right mix, and he works with them on the training pitch. So, hopefully these things will set themselves over the next couple of weeks. Why does Bruce take so long to change it up and put subs on? When he doesn't put Gale on, says Marty. I mean, yeah, we've made a joke about this for the last season on the show, haven't we? About 65 minutes is his usual time. I mean, obviously I wasn't watching the game yesterday, but I presume by Marty's text, it was roughly the same time again.
Yeah, it was late into the game. I can't remember the exact minutes, but by the time we'd made the subs, it was too late really to get some momentum going and try and change things. And you could see there was players like St. Maximin clearly frustrated, saying we need to change something, it's not working, but he just didn't. He's just so persistent. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because he just doesn't have a game plan in his head of what system will work or what to do when we're in a certain situation, and that's why he doesn't change things, or whether he just has his favourites and he wants to keep them on the pitch. I really don't know, but he needs to sort that out because we can't go on to win a game when we're playing poorly without making changes.
Mark says Freddie Woodman was camped under his bar all game. I thought he would have commanded his box a lot better. Poor set of defenders in front of him didn't help the situation to have an easier debut. Yeah, I've got to be honest, in the friendlies that he played, he is one of those keepers who tends to be stuck on his line. He doesn't seem to have much command of his box. Maybe that's something he'd do, better. But like you said, the defenders in front of him didn't give him a lot of confidence.
No, it would have been really difficult for Freddie Woodman. I did feel bad for him. I don't think he's going to be a world-class keeper. I think he's just a 5 or 6 out of 10 kind of keeper, but he would do a lot better if we did have better centre-backs because they weren't doing their job.
Alan Thompson says, as Einstein says, Holly and Steve, keep doing the same mistakes, you get the same results. Same players, same position in the league, I hope. And the relegation battle starts now. I mean, it's not positive vibes, is it?
No, but he's right.
Yeah, positives. We were very good going forward, says Tom. Keith says, in terms of the result, this result felt like the worst result since Leeds 5, Newcastle 2 last season. Steve Bruce has now lost 8 league games from winning position as Newcastle manager. Stats are always interesting. We love stats on this show, and ultimately the stats do tend to make bit of reading, dim reading at the moment for Steve Bruce, don't they?
Yeah, they do. In 8 games when we've been ahead and we've gone on to lose them is just horrendous because, again, it shows the problem that we've got a mentality issue because once we have that lead, we don't kind of have the confidence to keep it and we just allow ourselves to concede goals, which, again, backs up the fact that we concede a lot of goals, as someone mentioned earlier.
Bede says, Shelby and Kraft should be nowhere near the first team. Terrible. Don't understand Kraft ahead of Shaw or Lascelles. Yeah, I just don't understand that either. Jeff says Woodman's kicking was quite impressive.
I didn't pick up on that personally, but there you go.
Okay, Chad says, where was the protest? Chad?
Nowhere.
I don't know. A lot of talk about it. Certainly a lot of cyber chat about it, but, nothing seemed to come out and nothing seemed to happen. What was I presume there was the usual get out of our club song echoing round the ground at some point. Any Bruce songs?
No, there was, kind of like tiny brief spells where a few fans would sing it, but there wasn't a massive amount of fans singing it all for a long period of time. It was mostly just, who's that team we call United and Newcastle songs. Nothing really about the manager or Ashley.
Richard Morris says Miggy was a waste of space. He doesn't bring enough as an attacking threat. Would you agree?
Yeah, he didn't really do a great deal again in that game and he's lacked in pre-season. I think the system just doesn't suit him. The best thing he did in the game was he headed the ball kind of just in a good position when we were under a massive attacking threat, but that's not his job. He's finding it really hard to fit into this side, I think, and he can't show off what he's capable of.
Okay, Dino says Defo wouldn't say ASM was outstanding. He had good flashes, but he lost the ball too much and he caused their second goal. Tom says Woodman was okay. It was the defence that was the problem. 5 at the back, and yet they left gaps as big as Northumberland. Tells you probably the main problem we had. Alan Thompson, he says, I hate Shelby, but to be fair, he had a decent game. So he certainly agrees with you. It will be probably Shelby's last good game of the season, says GDN. God. Well, he's had 2 on the belt. I mean, Holly says he was okay yesterday, and he did play well against Norwich in the friendly, so he's on a run. Hayden is better than Kraft every day of the week, says Paul Oxley. Martin says, the problem is the wing backs. They're not natural defenders and they get caught out of position. And Rich says, Matt Ritchie is past it. Lascelles is a leader and we need him in the defence. We've got a lot of players that split people's opinions. And I think more than ever now. I mean, Lascelles, Shelby, Ritchie, Almiron. I think probably the only one most of us agree on is Joe Linton. But there's, goalkeepers. Some people want Darlow. Some people have been shouting for Woodman. A lot of people want Dubravka. But there's a lot of fans don't agree on players in this team.
Yeah, that is a very strange thing, isn't it? Because usually you tend to find people have the same favourite players and the same least favourite players, but we don't really have a wealth of great players. So, there's 1 or 2, like Wilson, I know 99% of the fan base is behind him. A lot of people don't like Joe Linton, but there is players that do kind of split opinion. And maybe that's because they'll have some good games and some bad games, and some fans tend to focus on the times when they play bad and some focus on the times when they play good.
Yeah, okay. Big shout out, as always, to our sponsors who have been with us for a very long time. Spider VPN. For all your internet security, contact Spider VPN. You can Google them. They come up at the top of your search engine, and they will help you protect your passwords on your computer, your photographs, and anything else. Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. And skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. Big shout out to John from QTech, who's in the chat tonight. qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle. And Jab Signature, the makers of our flyers. Also a big shout out to our 2 sponsors for this month, L&G Family Funeral Directors, 0191 389 7245, and Darren Baldwin Funerals. You can find them on 304 Old Durham Road, Gateshead. Give them a call on 0191 478 2730, or email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk, or visit the website www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. And they've got an offer on at the moment. Local direct cremations available from £1,495. Last chance to get your tickets as well for the evening with Supermac this Thursday at the Farmhouse Kitchen. Tickets are a tenner, and I think there was about 6 or 7 left. So get yourself onto the Farmhouse Kitchen on social media, and they will be able to point you in the right direction. And don't forget, this date is looming ever nearer. An evening with Steve Howie, Liam O'Brien, Rule Fox, John Beresford, Supermac, Darren Peacock, John Anderson, and Kevin Scott. Saturday, the 4th of September. There is no football on. It's Magic Weekend in Newcastle that weekend. And you can either visit newcastlelegends.com, but get yourself onto Voucher or Groupon. The tickets are on sale on there. Grab yourself a bargain on Voucher or Groupon. Joe Allen will be doing the comedy, and John Gibson is your compere for the night. You'll see me running around. You'll see Holly. I think Pete Davies coming up for that one as well. A few of the other faces will be joining us that night as well. So well worth coming along. Get yourself a VIP ticket as well. It means you can get into the VIP lounge and you can meet some of the players, get photographs with them, and get whatever you want signed as well. And we do have another show coming tonight. And those who've been with us for a long time will remember that the 5-minute rant we launched last year. Well, that is back at 7:30, and 2 presenters who were with me last year, Pete Davey and Chris Hall, will be taking the helm with that one. It's your chance to actually come on the show. The link for that is already up. So 7:30 tonight, join Pete and Chris as they take your calls on Newcastle United. Don't leave them sitting there by themselves. Click on the link in the description box. Get yourself on and have a chat with the lads tonight about yesterday's game or whatever you want to talk about. Richard Morris wants to talk about pints. It's now £5 a pint inside the ground. It's shocking. Fans getting ripped off again. Wow. I don't drink beer anyway, but I don't drink in the ground. I'll have a couple before the game, maybe have a few afterwards. But it's shocking, but it's not Mike Ashley and the club who are ripping you off because he sublets that to a different company. So the only bar that makes money for the club is 9 Bar. The rest are all subletted out. So whoever runs that used to be Sodexo, I believe. Maybe they're the people who are putting the prices up, but I find that really, really, really extreme. But there again, I heard somebody today complaining about cigarettes, and a pack of 20 is now 15 quid at some places in Newcastle city centre. Absolutely mental. Just want to talk COVID for 2 minutes. Holly, you were one of the 168 people in your age group who went to the COVID van yesterday and you got your jab.
Yeah, I did. I got it yesterday before the game. There was quite a few people there, to be honest, which was good to see.
And which one did you get? Was it the AstraZeneca or was it the Moderna? What was it?
It was the Pfizer one.
The Pfizer jab. Okay. So, and how were you feeling today?
I was a little bit poorly this morning, not like anything too bad. I had a bit of a headache and felt a bit tired, but I'm feeling a lot better now.
Okay, well, that's good stuff. You're still here, like a trooper. And I've got to say, because this is your show, congratulations on the GCSE results.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I was really happy with them. Yeah, I was really happy with them. It's been a tough couple of years for everyone with the COVID situation, but I've had a very rough couple of years in particular, I think it's fair to say, and I wasn't expecting to do as well as I have done, so I'm really pleased with that. And now obviously on to the next stage, which is college, I'm looking forward to.
And what are you taking at college?
I'm doing healthcare, and the aim's to be obviously a mental health nurse, which is something that I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm hoping that goes well and I do end up being able to do that.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well done again. Congratulations. I'm sure lots of people in the chat will want to say that as well. Yano says, all the fans calling for Shelby to be dropped. Who replaces him in that role? Who does replace him, Holly, if Shelby was dropped?
You'd probably be looking at, well, obviously we'll have Willock available for the next game, so he'll come into the side. But you're probably looking at like a Sean Longstaff as kind of a direct replacement for Shelby. But I know he's more defensive than Shelby, but Longstaff, I was a massive fan of him and I really wanted him to do well. But unfortunately, since Bruce has came to the club, I really just think he's finished at Newcastle. He came on as a little bit as a sub, and again, he was just absolutely shocking. He can't get the ball. He doesn't bother going in for 50-50 tackles. And I don't think he knows how to pass forward either. He always passes back, which is just ridiculous. So Longstaff, I don't think he's got a chance. And Matty yet again was nowhere to be seen. So the midfield's a massive problem. I'd love to think one of the youngsters end up stepping up and they get a chance in the side. But again, I don't think that's one of Bruce's priorities, and I can't see that happening either.
No, only if injuries and suspensions force his hand, I would imagine. Paul Oxley says, should have seen how packed the club shop was after the game. Yeah, a lot of people like the strips, it has to be said. Do what I do, sink 5 pints before going in, says Spenny. Great advice. That's to save the £5. Yeah, just go to the Irish club. Brian H is a positive. We've got the same points as Man City.
We won't by the end of the season.
Jeff Carter says, Steve, shame your score prediction didn't work out. Yeah, I went for a 3-1. I knew there'd be goals. Exactly the same as last year. Just didn't expect us to concede as many as that at home. 2-1 at half times, and some Newcastle fans were thinking we're winning the league, says Funko. Nothing had changed other than Joe Linton starting on the bench and Willock being in the crowd. Yeah, that's football these days, isn't it? Fickle.
Yeah, it was. The atmosphere was crazy at first, and then I think everyone was just feeling super low at the end of the game.
Crikey, first chant against Ashley, 86th minute. That really is surprising. It really is, because it's the one song that usually gets in air and at least a little bit earlier. Tim Cairns says, why Joe Linton instead of Gale? Surely surrendered on the 4th goal. Yeah, heads seemed to go down after that. Tom reckons the atmosphere was okay. The reaction to Wilson's goal was the best I've seen for years. Probably not surprising given the situation, which did look really good. Dave Harrison was charged £2.90 for a lemonade at the Stack. Well, that is sacrilege, mate. Sacrilege. I bet you a pint of water and bloody oranges, £1.50 in there or something. Stephen Ollie, have you seen the Newcastle hoodie priced at £165? Who in the right mind is going to pay for that? Yeah, I did see somebody tweeting Joe Willock wearing it. Didn't realise it was £165, mind.
Yeah, I've seen that online today. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. Really, really is. Bruce halftime team talk was shocking. What he said to the players must have had a negative effect. Yeah, we can only imagine what he says at halftime. Really, but I gave Joe Linton 10 games last season. I'm going to give Bruce 10 games this season. So let's see where we're at in 10 games' time before I start getting negative against the manager. We could be sitting in a European place in 10 games' time. Richard Morris says the hand dryer didn't work in the toilet and it's still got posters of Andy Carroll saying keep your distance.
I don't know. I wasn't in the toilets I was in.
Well, Richard, to be honest, I've got a feeling, and I could be wrong here, but I'm sure you tweeted that last year. Before COVID, I'm sure somebody tweeted it or somebody messaged about it. It might have been. In fact, it wasn't. It was the Sheffield United game. Somebody put a tweet out or sent a message to the show saying exactly the same. I wonder if it was the same toilets. Possibly. Derek says Shelby didn't bring anything to the game. If he gets a 60-yard ball to his feet, he thinks he's had a good game. So a lot of negativity towards Shelby. Hi guys, says Mark. For me, Richie gets caught out positionally wise, playing as a right wing back, playing as a wing back. And why is ASM coming back deep in his own half? He lost the ball there that led to the goal for West Ham. A lot of people saying that about ASM. Flatness to deceive, some people say. Some people obviously point out that cost us a goal yesterday.
I think overall he was just really good though, because he was just going in for everything. He was trying his best. I mean, he totally had the defence on absolute strings, the West Ham defence. He was really kind of, putting them off and doing all his skills that he normally does. And he wasn't actually being too selfish in that game either. He was passing the ball when he needed to. So that was a good thing from him to see. But you could put the blame on him a bit for the goal. But ultimately for me, the defence just wasn't stepping up enough. And I think that was the main problem why we conceded.
Dave Galloway is a West Ham fan. Congratulations to you, mate. Yesterday, you deserved the win 100%, and I personally think you guys will be fine as well. David Moyes seems to have found his club at West Ham and seems to be doing well. You've got some great players, although Declan Rice, from what I saw, was outstanding yesterday, and you've got some really talented players, big units as well. He says, I'm a West Ham fan, thought going forward, Newcastle were good. You will be fine this season. Dave, I think a lot of Newcastle fans will wish they had your confidence, but you never know, mate. You never know. We might be all right with a bit of Brucey luck. Gary Hannon says, just one question. I wonder how Joe Willock felt as he watched how he felt with a full crowd.
I'd imagine he would have been delighted with that reception. Obviously, he got presented to the fans just before kick-off and he got a great reception. He got a standing ovation and everyone was just absolutely buzzing to see him at the club. And I think that would have meant a lot for him. Of course, we're seeing his reaction on social media as well. And he was really, really grateful for the reaction that he did receive from the fans. So I think it would have meant a lot to him.
Okay, Keith says congratulations on your GCSEs, and so does Gary. Says congrats for your passing, good luck with the future, nice job. Holly says trolls. Lots of those comments coming in, thank you very much. And talking about midfield, Jeff says Shelby or Hendrick?
Shelby.
Neither, Jeff, neither should be anywhere near Newcastle United.
No, if Shelby keeps playing like he is, I'd keep him in the side, to be fair.
Oh, well, I just can't see it. I mean, look, I think it's going to be, I genuinely think it's going to be Hayden and Willock. I think that's what we might end up with. Would you be happy with that? Mark Cooper would agree.
Yeah, I think that's probably our best midfield too. However, if Hayden plays like he did when he was playing more defensively, I'll definitely be having him out the side.
Okay, Colin says ASM was superb. Yes, he gave a goal away. Possibly, I still think it could have been defended better, but ASM was given 110%. I've got to be honest, he looked more enthusiastic than I've seen him for a long time. He did look as if he was playing for the team. Northeast corner, gents, one of two soap dispensers was broken last week and was by the sinks. Yesterday, it was exactly the same. Very bad, especially considering the importance of COVID hygiene. And these kind of things just don't seem to be getting addressed. Is Amanda Staveley headhunting Holly Blade, says Gary? Who knows? Keith Longworth says, is it true West Ham have signed Lingard? Don't know. Not seen anything on that today, to be fair. Mark says, to be fair, Holly, you're right. ASM had Declan Rice doing the hokey-cokey for our first goal. He was definitely putting his left leg in and his left leg out. It was good. Bernie Simpson says, I thought Willock could have looked happier when he was brought out before kickoff. I can forgive him for the long face at the full-time whistle. I think we were all left with long faces. He was probably thinking, I've got to sit and watch this. Bernie. But it was good. Look, it was good. Talk a little bit about that, Holly. That it was great to see to get it over the line. We were worried last Monday when we were doing the show, hoping and praying that it was going to go ahead. We couldn't understand why it had dragged on. How annoyed were you as a fan that he wasn't registered to play yesterday?
Really annoyed, but I was pretty much expecting it because I think Lee Charnley's just incompetent, to be quite honest. So would I expect anything different? No, I'm just grateful that he did eventually come in. Of course, it's only one game, so it doesn't make too much of a difference. But I do think if Willock played that game, we would have been a lot better, and he would have made that difference. And who knows, it could have been a different result.
First one of the new season for Stu. Bruce out. Conceding 4 goals at home on the opening day is inexcusable. I wonder who will finish higher, Bruce or the mighty Rafa. And there it is, the first mention of Rafa for the new season for everybody who goes, God, why do I keep going on about Rafa? But there it is, and it was Stu who did it. Bernard says, too many golden oldies in the squad needing major renewal with or without the never-ending takeover. We're banning that word, takeover. It's clearly not going to happen. Tom Lynn says, £5 a pint is okay for a nice beer in a nice pub, but for calling in a plastic glass, it's appalling. Tim Cairn says it's still Sodexo, so I was right. Mark Henderson says, I'll be needing a funeral if we keep defending like we did in the second half. Obviously referring to the sponsors that we've got. Alan Thompson says, Steve, the only reason we have a split opinion is that so many players are crap and we cannot decide who is worse. Alan, I would agree with you 100%. Yano. Now, Yano often has a complete opposite opinion to me, but I completely agree with you on this one. He goes, we're just 8 players short of a decent starting 11.
Yeah, 100%.
This is the gallows humour coming out, isn't it, in our fan base? It always does. Colin Wilson says, the problem is the manager. We haven't a team of superstars, but we have a manager that cannot get the best out of what he has. A good chef can make a great meal out of few ingredients. That sounds like an old Chinese proverb, doesn't it? Or something you'd get out of a fortune cookie. Neil Macmillan says, Almiron is like Forrest Gump, runs and runs and runs, but doesn't out.
You know what, I do agree to an extent. I think that kind of is what he did, especially when he first came into the club. But then he did start getting goals a couple of seasons ago, but he's lost the goals again now. And he's been the poorest he's ever been at Newcastle. I think he really doesn't fit well with this formation. I think it was best when he was in that kind of front three with Rondon and Perez. But now, unfortunately, he just really doesn't fit this formation.
Yano says 25,000 at Brentford made more of an atmosphere than our 50,000. Ryan says, I agree, Richie's past it now. Thanks for the memories, but he's not good enough for me anymore. The magic hat is losing its shine. 80s Gamer says, we lose again to Villa, then home against Southampton. We could really be halfway to relegation. Do you think Sean Longstaff will be off to Everton? Ross Barkley would be my replacement. It seems to me that the Longstaffs don't have a future under Bruce, Holly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that being at Newcastle is going to do them any favours, and I don't think they can progress in their career. So if I was them, I'd be looking to move on, both of them, Sean and Matty, and especially Matty because he's not even getting a look in.
Yeah, Chris McCarthy says 8 players short and a manager. We're going to be in a dogfight, especially without any more signings. Where is Lascelles? Chris, he was on the bench. He was fit to be on the bench. So what on earth was going through Bruce's mind? God only knows. It's the manager's fault, says Geordie Jedi. Almiron has been bruised, says Tom Lynch. Lots of people asking, what is going on with him? Is he suffering a confidence shortage? I mean, he certainly didn't play with a smile on his face last season. Peter Davison says, Bruce going on Total Sport on Thursday. That should be fun. Oh, my God. Willock is on Wednesday. Wow, yes, that will be interesting. There's definitely a charm offensive going on with Steve Bruce and Holly. That confirms it now, that Bruce is going on Total Sport. He did the food bank, which he was asked to do, as Steve Hasty confirmed on Friday's Fab 4, which was great PR. He then walked to training this week, from Jesmond to Benton, casually walked in. Whether he actually did the full walk, whether he got driven and then got out and then walked through the gates as if he walked in. So maybe he's more good PR. Talked to fans, posed for photographs, did a few autographs. Now he's going on Total Sport. This is definitely Bruce trying to win the fans over.
It is, but the timing's a bit bizarre because he didn't do this when he first joined the club, so why now? That's what I'd be asking. He's meant to be in this final season of his contract, and I think most of us can agree that he will be staying on if things don't change in regards to ownership. But it's bizarre timing. Like, why is he all of a sudden trying to win the fans over now? Why didn't he do it 2 years ago?
Perhaps because he's staying. Perhaps because he knows he's not going anywhere. This is a rolling contract, so there's no such thing as the end of the road for Steve Bruce. He's here for as long as we need him, and this takeover is not happening anytime soon. Certainly not the Saudi one. So we're in this position where we are literally in Groundhog Day, and he realizes that he's probably got a job for life here, because my understanding with his contract is that he gets a hell of a payment if he gets sacked. Bruce is probably onto a big winner here. He, actually doesn't like spending money. Certainly not at the moment. And I guess if he sacks him, he's going to be paying off a hell of a lot of money. So Bruce probably knows he's in a safe position, and he's just going for a charm offensive. But yeah, Colin says he walked to training after consuming a full turkey. God. George says the problem with the Longstaff brothers is that they're just not good enough. Sorry, but that's the hard fact, along with at least half the team. Yeah, I mean, look, Sean Longstaff certainly under Rafa, second time he's been mentioned, Stu, was looking as if he was a good player. Good enough for Man United to want to pay £20 million for him. Matty, the jury's out. We haven't seen enough of Matty Longstaff in the first team because Bruce gave him a debut, scored against Man United, but then we haven't seen a great deal of him, and then the big fallout happened. So, I don't know. I think Sean Longstaff is, and I've said it before on this programme, he struggled with the injury. He hasn't come back from that injury. Whether he was rushed back, I just don't know. Whether his confidence has gone a bit under Bruce, but he just doesn't look the same player. George says because he's been slaughtered for 18 months. Yeah, I mean, there's confidence, fallout with the manager, coming back from injury. I think he's been bruised, as Tom Lynch would say. Tom says, wasn't Bruce on the phone to the garage about his car at the Burnley training game? He walked in because his car's knackered. Maybe I don't know. I hadn't heard that, but it seems a bit... I just think there's a charm offensive, and as I say, he's going on Total Sport now, which he hadn't done it previously. Can Bruce and Jones just switch roles? Couldn't be any worse, and nothing to lose, says Bernard. I mean, I can't see Jones doing that. He's a coach, Ollie.
Yeah, I think Graham Jones, that's where he's comfortable being a coach. I don't think he wants to be a manager, and you get the best out of him as a coach. And obviously Bruce, well, he's not a good coach either, so that would be totally silly if you made him into a coach. But I did think it was interesting. I don't know if you've seen Willock's interview where he said managers, like plural. Like, I've learned a lot from the managers. I think that was quite interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't see that interview, but no, that is interesting. What was that on?
I think it was on the club's page, the NUFC TV thing that they run through the website. But I'm assuming that's referring to Jones and Bruce. So that clearly kind of proves that what the fans have thought, that Jones basically is acting as a manager alongside Bruce.
Yeah, very interesting. Jeff says Bruce has normally been sacked by this stage, so this is all new to him. That's pretty good point. Richard says, I still think Holly could carve a good career in the media. However, good luck in her chosen profession. That's very kind of you, isn't it, Holly?
Yeah, it is. Of course, I love doing this stuff, but I guess I'll just wait and see what happens, because I really got an interest in nursing and mental health as well.
John says Bruce walked to training because Stu had let his tyres down. That's allegedly in there, John. Stop causing mischief. You can tell you're getting better. Bede says Steve Bruce on a rolling contract till 2040. Oh, dear me, how... you're laughing, but it could happen. Keith says, Almere run runs and runs, but no end product. Lots of them tonight. Maybe because of the way the club is with Ashley stepping down at Sports Direct, Bruce has been allowed to choose what he does and isn't being controlled. Interesting theory, Kenny. Steve, is it true Longstaff's going to Everton with Tom Davies coming our way? We could do with that. Chris, I really don't know. I'm with Holly in the sense that I can only see loan deals coming in. I can't see any more permanent signings. As Steve Bruce said, we've gone above and beyond. to get Willock. Another phrase which is going to come back to bite him on the backside. By the way, I just switched match of the day off before Steve Bruce came out with his interview at the end. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to hear anything that he said, and I don't want to know what he said. In fact, so don't start messaging that in. Do you think Armstrong will score against us? Says Paul Rocket. Great surname, because that goal he scored on Saturday was a rocket, by the way, Paul. Welcome to the Premier League, Adam Armstrong. Great goal, and I'd say it was a knocking bet that he'd score against Newcastle, Holly.
I don't think he will. I'm going to be positive, but it wouldn't surprise us, and I think he'll want to score.
Mark says, what's Bruce's next PR stunt? Opening a cabbage shop in the Green Market? Oh, God. Won't be long till the cabbages are out, says Tom. I think there was a few playing on Saturday, listening to some of the comments on the other night. If anybody was the owner of Newcastle, who would you get as manager instead of Bruce? Because we clearly can't get any worse. Gary, we've been through this a million times, and under Ashley, Bruce was the 11th person on the list, I think. I don't even think he was on the list. He approached the club. We are going to struggle under this owner to get another manager in. Alan Thompson says, our cup finals are against Burnley, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Norwich, Watford, Southampton. These are games I will get upset if we get beat. Everton, Villa, Wolves are now in a different league to us. Would you agree?
No, I think all games are as important as each other, and I think Newcastle are kind of a weird team in the sense that we tend to do better against clubs that you wouldn't expect us to do, and then those teams in and around us, we don't actually step up and perform in the manner that we should do. So I think every game we've got to go and try and win, and that's how we keep out of this mess, because if you rely on winning against the lower teams and then you don't win, you put yourself in a vulnerable position.
Carl says slight positive, and we didn't seem to stop attacking, which isn't something we're used to, albeit a poor second half. Yeah, you've got to take the positives. Carl, it's one game, one defeat. Disappointing, but let's just hope that they've learned the lessons from that. Chris McCarthy, Jones is not a manager. Look what he did to Luton, nearly relegated them. Totally different role. Very true. Ryan says, I'm starting to think we play 5 at the back because Bruce doesn't trust Lewis and Manquillo or Kraft. He's just stuck in that rut. He's stuck in that rut, stuck in that system. His other systems didn't work, and he's not a very good manager. Tony Bull says, Richie was shocking yesterday. He was caught napping too many times. Yeah, a lot of people said that, including Holly. Keith says, I agree, Holly. The 2 long staffs would be better moving on. How the hell does Kraft get in our team? He isn't even championship level, says Chris. It's not the kid's fault. I mean, he's even come out and said, this is the way it is. I'm not. He doesn't say he's a good player. He probably knows that he's out of his depth, but Bruce keeps picking him. Twister Man says 19 out of the 20 Premier League managers sound like they know what they are saying when interviewed. The odd one out always sounds like he needs an auto cue because he doesn't understand football. Yeah, it's embarrassing. I have to say that. And that's one thing I will always criticise Steve Bruce for. Not very good in front of the camera. Andrew Barnes says, Bruce going to raid Newcastle at 6 o'clock on Thursday should be interesting. Yeah, we will certainly find out what's been said after watch that and catch up, because I'll be live on here with Super Mac and Gibbo. Super Mac will be sitting next to us that night, which will be a novelty because we're obviously working together that night. Tom Dixon says, just have to wait to see what the cat case brings. Roll on September. Chris McCarthy says, above and beyond sound like the work in progress comment. That was years ago. Thanks for the answer, Steve. And both of you keep up the good work. St. Maximin says, Andy Gibson was loving the atmosphere and name chants on Sunday. Do you feel it's vital to keep that up to try and keep him? But he'll get sick of getting beat. I mean, he definitely loves the fans, doesn't he? There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he does, and he was coming over to the Gallagher end and trying to tell the fans to keep up the noise and get behind the team and everything. And you could tell he was loving the reception that he was getting. But I think it's going to take a lot more than support from fans to keep him here long term. Because if we continue floating around the bottom half, I think he'll realise he can do better and he'll move elsewhere.
Jeff, we'll have a look at the internet situation there, and if I can do it, I will do. That is maybe his broadcast from the Talking with Malcolm. I nearly did it with Liam the other week, but didn't take the computer along. But if I can do, and they've got good internet, I will certainly do that. So you might be in for a treat on Thursday night. Watch this space. Bruce certainly has a face for radio, says Brian H. It's your opinion, allegedly. Dave Harrison says, great show as ever. Thank you very much. Tom says, Steve, if you were manager on Saturday against Aston Villa, what team would you put out? Oh, God, put us under pressure there, Tom. Well, obviously, you've got no choice with the goalkeeping situation. you're going to have to put Woodman in goal. I would play Manquillo instead of Kraft, and I would probably play Lascelles instead of Clark. Other than that, in the centre of midfield, Willock would be straight in for me, and I would take Shelby out, and I would try Willock alongside Hayden and hope that works. Other than that, I would probably leave it as it is. I wouldn't make too many wholesale changes, but I think those changes would be enough. Manquillo in for Kraft, Clark out, and you bring your captain back in. And I know he's not everyone's favourite player, but that's what I would do. And that midfield switch, drop Shelby and put Willock in. What would you do, Holly?
I would change up the defence. Obviously, I'd probably do the same as you and bring Manquillo in at right back. And then I probably would bring Lascelles in, even though I'm not his biggest fan. I'd probably put him alongside maybe Fernandez in midfield. I think I'd put, Hayden and Willock, and then the front three, I'd probably keep the same. So not many changes. And of course, you stuck with Woodman. But to be fair, I'd probably give Gale a run out in the second half, though, because I'd really like to see him get at least 45 minutes. Of course, that is if we're not winning the game and playing really well, then you don't want to mess about with the team too much. But I'd love to see Gale given a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there just seems to be some kind of, breakdown between him and Bruce, doesn't there, again? And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the transfer window over the next couple of weeks. Because if he's going to bring anybody in, there's going to be a couple more outs, I think, as well. So it'll be interesting. The Longstaff one seems to have legs. A lot of people asking about it and talking about it. So let's see whether Rafa comes in for him. But great start for Rafa at Everton as well. Willock and Hayden can do that job, says Geordie Jedi. John says, great show tonight. Don't forget to hit the likes on your way out. People, thank you very much. Hit the thumbs up to like it. And if you're first time visitor to the channel as well, you just need to find the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner, and that's it. You can click subscribe for free. 7 shows a week, plus a little bit extra content as well. Hit the thumb up to like, and of course share to your social media, share to Twitter, etc. Willock alongside Hayden. Hayden didn't look comfortable moving forward, whereas Willock will do that, no probs. And noticed Hayden was arriving in the box in the first half, says Bede. Last season, Joe Linton bullied Mings. Might be worth dropping Almira on for him to see if he can do that again. Another interesting point, and lots of people saying great show, etc., which is very, very nice of you. So, Burnley in the Cup, we'll just talk about that as well. Were you disappointed to get a Premier League team?
Yeah, I was. You want to try and get a lower league opposition, but Burnley, it's not even a good game, is it, either? I think Burnley v Newcastle is probably one of the most defensive, boring games to watch. Positive that it's at St James's Park, so we don't have to kind of travel midweek or whatever, but I will be going to the game. I think we've still got a chance. You'd like to see us win, but it's just got a draw and then kind of pens all over it, I think.
Yeah, I've got that feeling as well. Okay, don't forget, 7:30 tonight, you are getting spoiled. 2 shows. Pete Davey and Chris Hall will bring you the 5-minute rant. It is your opportunity to come on screen and tell us what you think about Newcastle United's performance this weekend, what your hopes and dreams are for the season ahead, and who you think we're going to sign potentially in the transfer window, where you think we need to strengthen. Come on, give the lads some support. It's a great show. People love it, and it's your opportunity to get on screen. And I know a few of you in the chat have already been on screen, so give the lads a bit of support tonight. I am not doing it. They are doing it on their own. So good luck to the guys, and I hope they have a good show. I will, of course, be back tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with Liam Kennedy. We will hopefully hear from Liam about some positive transfer news. That will be 6 o'clock tomorrow night. But me and Holly will be back next Monday. Holly, take care. Have a good week.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again.